would you feel if your company decided to post everyone's pay out in the open? Does the idea make you uncomfortable, or would you welcome it? More companies, from those as large as Whole Foods Market with 91,000 on the payroll to smaller startups, are making company-wide salary information available to all employees. Here to tell us why is WSJ's Work Family columnist Sue Shellenbarger and Dane Atkinson, CEO and co-founder of SumAll. Welcome to both of you. Sue, let me start with you. I think a lot of people would be uneasy about seeing everyone's pay posted. What emotions does this tap into?
Well, it can be anger if you think you're underpaid, defensiveness if you feel maybe you're paid more than your colleagues, embarrassment if you think your pay is just unfair in some way or not equal to your skill. We equate pay with status, so there's some very deep emotions involved.
And yet, so you point out in your piece, there are advantages to an open pay policy, some of which were shown in a Penn State law review study, correct? Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. It tends to get performance issues out on the table for discussion and also tends to eliminate inequities in pay. If you can see all the salaries, you quickly see patterns where perhaps minorities or women are paid less. And assuming the pay system is fair, it also is linked to better performance in other research.
All right. So, Dane, what led you to establishing an open pay policy at your company? Were you familiar with this study before you did it?
No, actually we weren't. I've had the pleasure of running a lot of companies and facing the downside of keeping your pay secret. People crying in restaurants or walking out the door and stealing photocopiers or whatever else they can to correct the inequities. So we decided we'd try a different way, which has actually worked out quite well.
And so have you had any personal experience with negotiating with female and minority hires in general? Does it seem to bear out?
Through my many companies, I have often hired females and minorities and been abusive in the past and just taking advantage of the fact that you can hire them often cheaper. Now that we've seen how horrible that is in an industry and live in this open environment, that doesn't happen, and it creates a much more stable entity, a much stronger organization.
Okay, now, Sue, how does an open pay policy work in a company as large as Whole Foods, example? Does the whole company get to weigh in on raises and bonuses?
That's very rare to have colleagues vote on raises. Very few companies do that. At Whole Foods, employees can see the pay data by making an appointment with an HR manager and looking at the data there. And so everyone can know if they wish. And it's really only a tool, I think, for employees to get performance problems out with their managers, talk about why they're paid as they are.
Okay, now, so Dane, how does it work at SumAll? Does the whole company weigh in on people's raises and bonuses? I mean, do you think it makes your employees more or less likely to ask for a raise?
So everyone can see the entire salary schedule for the company at any point they want to. And I think people talk about salary far more often when it's open. But it does actually correct in both ways. So it's like any open marketplace. Once you take out the obfuscation, it sort of self-corrects. So people move up in salary and people move down in salary as their sort of peers and team, feel it's appropriate.
So when people get their pay adjusted downward, they don't leave?
No, because it's often driven by their peer group. So it's not like a management decision that sort of just comes down on them. It's a conversation that's created by everyone knowing what they're making and feeling the performance isn't quite up to snuff. So it's not an easy chat by any stretch, but because it's coming from a wider body of folks, it usually works through.
And has this worked out positively for you? Have there been any results as a result of this policy that have surprised you, Dane?
Yeah, there have been tons. I mean, our retention rate's extremely high. We've had no loss due to salary or compensation issues. And beyond that, we've seen people really collaborate together in a different kind of fashion. Because once you know what another group in the organization is actually costing the company, spending 2 more hours of your time might save 10 hours of their time. It actually makes sense versus in the sort of static company, you throw the ball over the fence and wait for someone else to deal with it.
All right, so Sue, we're very lucky to hear about the employer's perspective through Dane. But Sue, what did the employees you spoke with at open pay companies, what did they say about the policy?
Well, some are very uncomfortable at first. One engineer at another company hired on saying he was really worried about it, anxious that people would judge each other's pay. People do get used to it, and the Penn State study found this as well. Over time, they get used to it. Maybe they don't even look anymore. I think if employees think it's fair, they're quite comfortable with it.
It seems like thinking it's fair is the key to making it all work. All right, Dane and Sue, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.